This time on Rat and Cat, the top survival stories from the last 30 days. Welcome to Rat and Cat, where we search, survive, and explore. I'm Nikia. It's time for us to look back at the top survival stories from the last 30 days. Our first story takes place near Alice Springs, Australia. 2 of 3 people survived for more than 13 days in the Australian outback after they took a wrong turn and got their car stuck in the Hugh River bed on November 19. The group included Tamara Macbeth Riley, Phu Tran, and Claire Hawkridge. After a week of staying close to their car and waiting for discovery, Tran and Hawkridge set off on foot to find shelter and water, but Macbeth Riley stayed near the vehicle with their dog Rhea. She was discovered first, 12 days after they went missing. Meanwhile, Tran and Hawkridge split up to look for help. One wanted to go high and the other wanted to follow the fence, a police spokesman told NBC News. Sometimes the thinking is you go up high to see where you are, but also after 14 days, you don't have rational thoughts. Phu was found alive on the 13th day, and on the 14th day, Hawkridge was found deceased. Survival experts will tell you that if you're lost and not in immediate peril, that you should stay put and not go looking for help. I think this story demonstrates that that's still sound advice. In the U.S., on December 15th, 38-year-old Craig Johnson was halfway through an 80-mile trek through remote Alaska on his way to visit family for the holidays when his snowmobile fell through the ice. Johnson walked 30 miles in his icy clothes, searching for help while being stalked by a wolverine. After warning shots failed to scare off the animal, Johnson said he used a stick to defend himself, but then stumbled upon a wooden box that he used to shelter. Johnson actually saw several rescue helicopters fly past him. That third night, he said, when they passed right by me, not even 200 or 300 yards away, that's when I lost hope. I just laid back down in that box. It just felt like that was an open grave for me. On the third day, the temperatures dropped to negative 35 degrees as the search team led by Clifford Benson, Johnson's cousin, closed in. Benson said that the wind and snow erased nearly all signs of Johnson until he heard his cousin yelling. "I've never heard someone yell like that anywhere," said Benson. Looking at what we can learn from this story, what would have happened if Johnson had stayed in place near the accident and written out SOS signs in the snow? It's quite likely he could have been rescued a day or two earlier. Although, staying on the move and fighting off the wolverine might have been what kept him alive by keeping his body temperature up. Carrying a waterproof flashlight and matches attached to his person might have also helped him to signal for help more quickly. Moving on, I think we've all heard about the man who survived for 3 weeks in the cold after his cabin burned down in Alaska. Tyson Steele on December 17 or 18, he says, put a large cardboard box in his stove one evening and then woke up later with melting plastic dripping from the ceiling on him. He believes embers from the box caught the roof on fire. The fire ignited hundreds of rounds of ammunition and a propane tank in the cabin stored near the food supply. It was like a war zone, Mr. Steele said. Unfortunately, his Labrador didn't make it out. The man survived partly by eating canned food salvaged from the fire, making a temporary shelter around his wood stove, which was still intact, and spelling out the words SOS in the snow with footprints and ash. There are a lot more details to the story that I don't have time to share right now, but I'll put a link to it in the description below. Also, 5 people survived an avalanche at a ski resort in northern Idaho. At least one person was buried as deep as 9 feet in the snow. 2 died in the incident. And an Austin, Texas woman fell on December 26 more than 80 feet from a cliff near Pennyback Ridge while walking her dog. The dog took off over the cliff and she went after it. The woman suffered serious but not life-threatening injuries. But it's okay, I guess? Apparently women often fall from this specific cliff and survive? Yeah, Google it. On December 28, a 30-year-old Southern California woman fell from a 200-foot cliff and survived. People heard her screaming from the bottom of the cliff and called police. She suffered minor injuries. And on January 2, 17-year-old Nicholas Stacy Alcantara was in Utah visiting friends and checking out colleges when he decided to hike 16 miles from Mill Creek Canyon to Snyderville. The weather turned bad, which he was not prepared for in terms of clothing or equipment, but he quickly improvised a snow cave and shelter. The teen kept alive by thinking of people he cared for and by pounding his hands against his chest to keep warm. He also set his alarm every 30 minutes so he wouldn't fall asleep. His socks were soaked, so he changed them, but his frozen fingers couldn't lace up the boots after changing his wet socks, so they fell off as he wandered out of the cave at first light on January 3. Fortunately, not long after that, he encountered some skiers who had a satellite phone and they called for help. What are your thoughts on these survival cases? Have you had a similar experience? Are there other stories that you think should have been in this list? I look forward to reading your thoughts and stories in the comments below. Until next time, I'm Nikia and this is Rat and Cat. Get out there, be safe, and enjoy the wild.